I just want to say a big welcome. So this is an event hosted by the Humanitarian Leadership Academy. And I want to say a thank you to the UN Summit of the Future for allowing us to hold this side event. So my name is Lucy. I'm going to be your host for today. I work in the Humanitarian Leadership Academy as a data and evidence specialist. As you can see on your screen, I'm joined by a really wonderful panel. And we're going to be focusing on the topic of youth leadership and digital learning to really enhance mutual learning and capacity sharing for young people. The reason that I think this is a really interesting topic is this summit is bringing together a huge range of contributors across the world in all sorts of sectors, whether that's digital technology and young people, but also in climate, in conflict, food insecurity, health factors. Everyone is coming together across the world to really accelerate change by coming up with creative solutions for our planet. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, as I'm sure we're all aware. There's a lot of shrinking rights of people across the world, questions about our shared humanity and how we can bring ourselves together and how we can connect more together. One thing that I've found hope whilst sort of exploring this topic in my own practice is that there are always solutions to every problem, we just have to find them. There's a lot of evolutions happening in technology and there's an increasing digitalization of our world that sometimes a lot of people can see might be threatening to our work. But if we can try and change that mindset to see it as an enabler to really enhance and gain ownership of our shared humanity, particularly for young people who bring so much energy, passion, ideas to the forum and to the center of our work, we can really start to shift how we feel about our work, I think. As a sector, we're having a really tough moment. Young people have kind of always been at the forefront of the humanitarian response work, leading responses to crisis that affect their lives and the lives of those around them. At the Humanitarian Leadership Academy, we are increasingly looking at how we can work with young people to enhance their existing capacities and leadership skills to really strengthen themselves and strengthen locally led organisations for a locally led humanitarian response. And we do see young people as being a really core part of that. So I'm delighted to be joined by a really great and varied panel who bring a lot of different expertise to this conversation. Some of them are very much experts in youth leadership. Some of them have a lot of experience in digital learning. Some of them are great responders in humanitarian. I think we've all got that in common, but we all deliver a lot of complicated work in challenging situations. So this conversation that we hope to bring you will be kind of exploring how digital learning specifically can enable youth leadership to really thrive. Explore what works, what doesn't work, and how we can ensure inclusive practices are embedded into our work. So I'm going to take a breath and I'd really love to welcome our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little about where they work, what they do, and I'd like to hear your perspectives on why it's essential to kind of focus on strengthening youth leadership for humanitarian responses. And I'm going to hand it over, first of all, to Matey, who's in the top of my screen.
Thank you, Lucy, and hello, everyone. It is great to be here with you today. So my name is Matey Nikolov, and I'm working with ActionAid in Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, Romania, and Poland as the regional youth program lead. So what does that mean? That means that I am leading all of our efforts related to youth leadership in humanitarian action, youth-led activism, and any kind of youth-led political work. So my perspective on why is it essential? Well, frankly, I think that it is essential for civil society to support young humanitarians and youth-led humanitarian action. On one hand, because young people are amongst the first responders to every crisis. But I would also like to kind of take it a step further and say that I think that at the end of 2024, it is not just essential to support them. I think it's our duty to support them as corresponding to our principles of leave nobody behind, and also in that way, making sure that the leadership that they show in a moment of crisis is thoroughly supported and not exposing them to further harm and risks. And with that, I think I will conclude at this point.
Love that, Matey. Thank you. Anastasia.
Hello, everyone. Nice to take part, and it's really a big pleasure for me to take part in this webinar today. I'm Anastasia Donska. I'm head of Ketchup program in Teach for Ukraine NGO. We are working on education in emergencies, and we have our main activities where we are working on, two spheres. So one of them is overcoming inequality in education, and in this sphere, we are trying to engage the young leaders with high potential to small gramada, to rural areas, to small cities, to be teachers who could be not only the teacher, but also a role model for the youth in their places where they live, and encourage them for new changes and encourage them to love study. And the second type of activities we provide is concentrated on overcoming learning losses and catch-up classes to children. In this sphere, we are empowering teachers to work as tutors with children using digital instruments all over Ukraine. We involve all Ukrainian children in this project. And another type, we allow all students and young, potentially really with high knowledge people to be the mentors, volunteers. So we are looking for intellectual volunteers who would like to split their time and to teach students. So we use so much technologies in our organizing processes now, and that is why we could cover 14,000 children with catch-up classes through 2 years of the war. On my opinion, it is really crucial to work with children on every stage, and it's really crucial to support youth as a child to love teaching, and then young teachers as teachers to pursue their leadership skills and to pursue their goals, and develop children, unlock their potential, and that is why we can unlock the potential of the country. Nevertheless, what occasions we are now and what security situation now, we believe that youth is the key to perspectives of our country and countries around.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Hisham.
Thank you, Lucy, for hosting us today, and thanks for all of the colleagues who are joining us also for this session. I'm Hisham Dirani. I'm the CEO for Violet Organization, a Syrian local NGO that is based in Turkey, responding cross-border in Syria. We are a youth-oriented organization, so we focus on all of our programming and also on our strategy on how we support youth and providing or supporting their empowerment and also the economic empowerment that would enable youth to play their leadership role, and not only now but also in the future of Syria, considering that we are working in protracted crisis that started in 2011, and we expect that to continue for years after though. And in our work, we focus on working with more than 2,200 young women and men who organize themselves under about 75 CSOs, CBOs, youth-led organizations or groups, and women-led organizations and groups. We always try to support them through utilizing the required resources, either if that's through the programming, but also through the learning process. So we utilized our pathway in the HLA that customized to provide trainings to humanitarian aid workers, but also to the generally to youth, including business skills, soft skills, leadership skills, etc. So we think that supporting youth with the required knowledge and required resources, then that would enable them to play their leadership role in the community, especially with the type of context that we are living with, where a huge displacement that happened different times in Syria. So we have more than 60% of the population in the country internally displaced, and about 30% of the population of the country like flee outside the country. Most of the people, more than 2 million people living in tents. So they have like difficulties in accessing education, either at primary level, but also secondary and higher education, adding to the possibility to have like access to vocational trainings. So we are trying to utilize e-learning, digital transformation as much as we can in order to enable them having access to those resources. I'd be happy being with you today to speak more about that experience and the challenges youth are facing, and that could be related to learning. Over to you.
Great, thank you so much. Katya.
Hello again. Hi, everyone. My name is Kateryna Fesnak, and I represent the organization Ukrainian House in Przemyśl, which is in Poland. Since 2022, our organization began to provide humanitarian help to Ukrainian refugees with cooperation with Polish Humanitarian Action and some others organization like HLA's, Ashoka, Save the Children, and CARE organization. And we provided complex help to refugees from administration, organization, provided information, and also looking for job accommodation, and providing the courses like language courses, and we provide accommodation with medical help and psychological help. But still, my point of view is since August last year, I am a facilitator of a self-care program, which is about stress releasing and techniques. And this is the goal of this program is this is a training to aware people on the mental health, and we provided it for our colleagues in organization, but still for the Ukrainian refugees which are here in Przemyśl. But we started to provide it online so we can reach the people who actually need it, not only in our town. And that's why I'm here, because maybe I will see some resources that I've never I will never think about it before. So thank you so much for invitation, and I'm glad I can be here today.
Brilliant, thank you so much, and we're so happy to have you here. And finally, Neba, do you want to introduce yourself, where you work, and how you sort of see the importance of youth leadership capabilities developing as they grow?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lucy. I'm Neba. I'm presently in Cameroon, and I work for a local NGO that has been promoting access to education for children affected by conflict. For the past 6 years, we've been supporting internally displaced children, separated children who are directly impacted by an ongoing conflict in the northwest region of Cameroon. And I think one of the factors that led me to work efficiently was that I took courses on Kaya, which is a learning platform for Humanitarian Leadership Academy. And I was amazed at the resources that I found when I started exploring learning opportunities on how I can enhance my capacity to better perform, especially in conflict settings where things are very fast-paced and can change very rapidly. I was looking at platforms where I can upskill to better adapt and better perform in my role as project coordinator in implementing the projects that we were involved in. And when I got to Kaya, I found that it had an array of courses that covered almost every aspect of the work that we did. And the courses were first and foremost very simple to follow, and they were self-paced, in which case you could start a course and then join sometime later. And then at the end of the day, you are motivated that you get a badge, which shows that you've had an achievement. So Kaya Connect is a very comprehensive platform, which is very user-friendly. And the courses are designed with very simple and easy to follow languages. And anytime you sign up for a course, you find that other related courses keep popping up. And I think it's a very interesting learning platform. And it plays a crucial role, especially for youth capacity building in humanitarian setting, because youth, as one of the first panelists mentioned, are always the first responders, but then they need to have the knowledge to be able to respond appropriately in order not to cause more harm. So the youth are crucial, and upskilling as a youth in the humanitarian sector serves a long-term goal, because the youths ensure sustainability of interventions, because then after the initial response, then the youth will take up leadership roles and will be able to continue with a lot of the activities that follow after immediate response. And also, youths are more resilient and more adaptable. So having the right skills and the right capacity or sufficient capacity to deal with crisis or to handle humanitarian situations is very crucial. And that gap is somehow filled by the digital platforms that are available that go beyond just a certain space and can reach everybody everywhere. I think it's really interesting what digital platforms can do in enhancing youth capacity in humanitarian settings. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, thank you. And that really starts us off quite well, because one thing but I just want to set the scene a little bit is to explore actually what digital learning might be for different people. And you mentioned there, Neba, about how we can build resilience within young people, because there are multiple crises happening across the world and within each country, as we all know. So how can different digital learning offerings actually really strengthen that resilience? And what examples do you kind of have with your expertise? And Anastasia, I'm wondering if I could actually come to you perhaps first. So what digital learning offerings do you kind of interact with within your work? Is it primarily e-learning courses, or is it how do you embrace digitalization for young people?
Thank you, Lucy. I would like to share some of our experience with the start of the war. In 2022, Teach for Ukraine faced the challenge: how can we proceed working with children? How can we proceed spreading the education and working with them if there is disruption in electricity, if there is some security situation that do not allow to continue studying? So some schools were closed. And we decided to launch a tutoring project, but in online format. Actually, it was quite innovative for Ukrainian realities. So we didn't have before any tutoring activities. Excuse me, please. So some youth is coming and they want attention too. Excuse me. But nevertheless, maybe you can give a floor to someone else. No, I will come back.
Worries. It's always nice to have young people on our sessions, so they are always welcome. But I do want to give the floor to the rest of the panel if there is something that you wanted to explain about how specific digital initiatives that you work with have built that resilience in young people to become a leader. I'm wondering, Matey or Hisham?
Yeah. Hisham, would you like to go? Otherwise, I'm ready.
You can go.
Thank you very much. So basically at ActionAid, we're learning we're using different kind of digital tools in order to amplify and really like strengthen the ways that we do capacity building with young people in humanitarian action, but also in development work and any kind of situations where we support the capacity development of young people. So what I wanted to say was that like actually digital tools and inclusive learning platforms, they're like going well beyond, what we are trying to achieve. And in many ways, they're supporting our work in the democratization of knowledge. So when we use digital platforms, what we're actually able to do is we're able to disrupt the traditional knowledge gatekeepers, right? The schools, the institutions, when you have to go or let's say pay, and we're able to offer a lot more access to different young people. But I think most importantly, like access is one thing, and we should definitely also talk about those marginalized groups and especially girls and women who don't have access to the internet around the world. But what I would also like to say that for those who do, the digital tools also give an opportunity not only to access, as I said, but also to create knowledge, right? So it's about access, it's about sharing, but it's also about knowledge creation. This is where digital learning can actually become an opportunity, not only for us to strengthen the capacity of young people, but for young people to strengthen our own capacities and understandings. And when you combine this with the global connectivity that is offered by the internet, it really kind of becomes extremely amplified, allowing us to learn from different contexts, to actually be able to leverage, humanitarian experience in the global south, where there is a lot more countries experiencing disasters, to, for example, crises like Ukraine and the refugee migration. So in that way, like I think that really the internet provides an amazing, amazing tool, and all the different ways that digital learning is being designed and structured, where it's, self-paced, interactive, demand-driven, so young people can also access it in the middle of the crisis when they find time. So it's not us telling them, like, oh, you should, deprioritize your community for a second and come into a classroom, which is super difficult, but they can go in and do the course whenever they have a moment, whenever they have the time and the mental capability to basically dedicate themselves to learning. Now, Hisham, maybe you want to follow up with something after me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Matey. So you covered like several points, but I feel that it's also maybe possible to spot the light on the ability of the customization. So also now we feel we live in a system, especially the humanitarian system, that is too internationalized and colonized. So e-learning platforms such as the HLA is like and other digital tools giving the opportunity for youth and those who are interested in supporting them in order to be able to customize the learning process that they are looking for, the curriculums that they are looking for, either like through like the a customized like pathway, or also having an access to the trainings that they are looking for, having this like interactive development of the curriculums and the courses that they could be could enroll themselves to those features. And Syria, it was like the impact of the e-learning was like maximized because more than 60% of children, they don't have access to formal education. Also, more than 80% of adults and young people, they don't have access to secondary education and to higher education, so like to universities and etc. So the early e-learning platforms gave that opportunity for them in order to get the knowledge, and also to connect with others. Because like in Syria, youth, they cannot go outside Syria. They cannot go outside the control areas. So we have like in Syria, different control areas due to the de facto authorities. So people, they cannot move freely within the country, not only outside the country. So they cannot connect with others. So how they can like build the future of the country, how they recover the country if they cannot connect with the others inside the country, and also and the west side of the world. So e-learning, digital platforms give them that opportunity in order to connect, to get the knowledge, and also to share experience. Because people, if they did not share their experiences, they feel that they are dependent, that they are only recipients of the knowledge. But when they are co-creators for the knowledge, their ownership will be completely different. And also there will be a possibility to develop their way and their approach. Like we are adapting now in a hybrid approach, where youth who can access like the e-learning, or they feel that they are comfortable to receive their knowledge through the e-learning, they do so. Then within the youth clubs and youth centers that we are operating, they exchange the knowledge, they pass that knowledge that they learned to the other youth groups in the country. So it is the way how this like digital and technology is possibly to be customized and adapted based on the needs of and wants of the youth, outside of the traditional hierarchies that we are falling into as NGOs, local NGOs or INGOs, or generally either the institution, the traditional educational institutions. So that's also like another perspective that I found like important to spot the light on. Over to you, Lucy.
Great, thank you. Anastasia, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really important to have this opportunity to provide e-learning throughout the country, and in addition, it's really important to have an ability to use this e-opportunity. Yeah, and we faced where I stopped. Yes, there we launched the tech-enabled tutoring program together with the World Bank, and wanted to assess. We provided one of the biggest randomized control trial if the online tutoring, tech-enabled tutoring, can help to breach the learning losses for children. So may we overcome these learning losses through e-based tutoring. And we faced some challenges here. So the first one, in times of the war, we do not have sometimes electricity, access to internet, and it is really difficult to provide constant lessons. So we had to be really flexible in scheduling lessons. So we wanted to provide in-person tutoring in groups 1-to-1, 1-to-3, up to 3 students. And when it was like, you know, we have the schedule, and Matthew told about it, yes, so the schedule that is not appropriate to the person, but sometimes there is a circumstances that even not allow to follow this schedule. So we have to be flexible here, and how to develop the schedule to 1,000 children, to 3,000 children, to more thousands children. Yes, we want to include. It was a big challenge, second challenge for us. And the third challenge we faced, it is the digital skills of the teachers, because we had a lot of motivated teachers who wanted to be a part of the program, but they couldn't use those digital instruments we provided and we wanted them to use. So we had to make digital skills training together with the tutoring training. So we teach them to be tutors, but in this time, how to use the instruments. Just like making a Zoom, it's okay, but we have the territories in Ukraine where Zoom is not allowed to work. Some people do not have access to it. So how do we find new instruments to it? That is why in such a being flexible and trying to adjust and find the new ways to overcome the risks we have, we provided catch-up classes to 40,000 of children, and it is 100,000 catch-up sessions for 2 years we might be done, and it is simultaneous catch-up classes. So what inappropriate, the best teacher from one side of Ukraine could provide catch-up sessions in Ukrainian in mass in another side of Ukraine, and it was evidence-based, and we have all the necessary data collected together with the World Bank specialists, how it has influenced the academic skills. That is important, yes. So math, Ukrainian language was much better results at the end of the program, and it is equal to some months of additional or learning at school, just a normal learning at school. But what is, I think, personally more important, that we could motivate children to continue learning in times of war. Because they wanted to assign by themselves. Yes, one of the panelists told already that children use, yes, because they are like different. We have different ages up to the end of the school. So they spread information between each other. Hey, go, there is a cool teacher. I want you to connect to this class. And then they spread information. Let's learn together. Teachers are the community that go further and try to involve children to these online classes if they see that they do not have the capacity to provide additional classes to their child. So it is really important to use digital instruments and be flexible with them. We are really appreciate to the Czech platform in scheduling. They adjusted their AI as they had when they heard our problems that we couldn't make the schedule to this huge amount of kids and teachers and to be flexible. So they provided like free for us, but the new instrument, new application in their platform, and so we can do this schedule with using their platform. Then we shared our problems with one Ukrainian company, and they made a journal to fix the attendance and the level of anxiety and stress of the children. We always measure it. So they also adjust according to the problems we have their instrument too, that now is really nice to use it. And I'm sure that such types of interventions could help us to cooperate in the future. So we could really share this experience with other countries who need this immediate support for children, to provide it just now, to organize new digital opportunities that are not existed before.
Brilliant, thank you. There's a couple of things that have cropped up from all of your answers that I actually just want to explore a little bit. Because sometimes, you know, we do work in contexts where there is no electricity, where digital access isn't always guaranteed. We also know that there are a range of learning opportunities that work maybe better in person. So I'm just wondering kind of how we can combine blended learning, so face-to-face learning, but also still capture that scalability that digital allows us in our learning. So yeah, I'm just kind of wondering how do we best bring those together, the face-to-face element and the digital scale? Is it by blending the two together? I guess that's probably my question. I'm going to allow you to decide who would like to answer that point, because I realize it's a tricky question.
May I just
yeah, you can go on.
I just continue the path till you remember about tutoring. So I think it is the best instrument now, how we could do it, because what we are suggesting to tutors is not to follow the curriculum at school, but to adjust the curriculum according to the needs of the students. So on the first lesson, they make the assessment, baseline assessment, and see what learning gaps they have. And according to these gaps, teachers should develop the path of learning for next week. So how do they go with the child according to the needs of the child? And then not only learn the topics, but also motivate youth and children to find this information then later in internet. Show them the best platforms, show them the best resources that are available online, where they can develop by themselves, and even when the program will end. And we actually gathered this information that students continue learning even after the start of, after the finish of the program, because they understood that they are able to learn and they have all necessary to be the successful in education by themselves, even without support. Because in the one time, at the one point, they received this support. So it is one of the ways. The floor to Hisham, his suggestions. Please.
Thank you, Anastasia. The other way that we are adapting that is the TOT, so training for trainers. So also youth who can have access to the e-learning platforms, those who think that they prefer to receive their knowledge and learning through the e-learning platforms, and they have access, so they got it. Then they continue, they pass the knowledge that they gain to the other youth in person, who are attending in person in the youth clubs, to ensure that also they have the ability to learn. On the other side, also there are set of courses that better to be provided in person, especially when it comes to leadership and also like psychological, mental health things. So those sessions will ensure that also we build like trainers who receive their their trainings through the digital platforms. Then they provide this type of support in person, physically, to the to the other participants. On the other side, also going like back to the to children. So also for those who does not have access to formal education, we ensure that teachers they receive the trainings, they receive the required tools through the digital platforms. Then they pass it to small group of children. Sometimes like in the small camps, the teacher goes and like sets with 5 to 10 children, and provide them with the required like education classes. So it's like the hybrid modality is needed also to ensure the level of quality of the learning, because sometimes in the e-learning modality, it's not easy to ensure the quality of learning. But having this hybrid modality where we have e-learning plus the in person, we can ensure a better quality and also validation for the for what have been learned within the community.
And Kasia, I wondered if you, because Hisham mentioned that actually he's had some good experiences with that kind of hybrid approach in mental health and well-being, and I wondered if that was something that you've seen as well. How do you use digital in your work, but also ensure that human connection that I think is actually very important in your area?
Oh, thank you for the question. I can see that the most important thing that the people actually need in mental health to be connected with people and to see each other and have opportunity to discuss one-to-one and all and etc. But still, we starting from using the communicators, which are our way to remember those people who are in the group and who are learning by on our meetings, to remember them and ask them actually if are they practicing exercise that we started to did during the lesson. And this is the great way to see the atmosphere, and I can see that the group support each other. And if someone told them that I have no time for this, I have no motivation to start, and I can see how the group, without the facilitators even, starting to help each other and create space to start to give tips each one to each other. And actually this is really small thing to create a group on the communicators, but still it works perfectly, because I can see that the group create a safe space and support each other. And this is what I can see here.
Brilliant. Thank you all. Oh, Matey, go ahead.
Sorry, I was not sure if I should raise the hand or just jump in. Just wanted to kind of flag a few things. I mean, ActionAid has benefited tremendously from the introduction of digital tools, both before in-person learnings and also after, as a way to follow up, as a way to empower and to support our training of trainers, in the way that, like, our trainers, if they don't practice, let's say for a year because there was a disaster or something, then they can revisit some of the content online, have access to a mentor from distance, and all of these different ways to do it. But the thing that I actually wanted to flag was that, of course, when we talk about access, we need to consider that there is a significant part of the population that, one, does not have the access, and two, does not necessarily feel comfortable in accessing those spaces that we provide for them. So in some cases, we need to take the extra step and make sure that our educational content reaches these people who are excluded for various reasons. And what I would like to say is that, for example, we have been experimenting with some low-tech and offline solutions, right? Because we often think of digital technology as the internet, the PC, the laptop in front of us, but radio is also a digital technology, right? Podcasts, SMS-based learning. There's so many ways, if you start to think about, being creative, and if you want to go that last mile and try to reach those who are usually left behind, suddenly, you can also use other things. And maybe like the last thing that I would just like to point out is that while we're focusing on actually enhancing and supporting the capacity development of young people, directly through providing learning opportunities, we should not forget to do the advocacy. Right, so to do the work that is necessary to advocate, to increase the level of access, because I mean, many circles, access to the internet is becoming a right, and this is something that we need to recognize, because if you are not with a good access, you get left behind by default. And speaking of that, also wanted to say something that I have noticed more and more in fellow civil society organizations is that we're often trying to bring people online. And there actually ends up being a group that we're not necessarily targeting, which is the, millions of spaces on Discord, Telegram, and other, social media platforms where young people are, gathering by themselves in thousands. And those groups were often, like not really targeting. And I think that is a gap that maybe together we can figure out how to solve. Over from my side.
Really, really interesting. And I completely agree. And I see that as a huge gap. Sorry if you can hear there's a massive thunderstorm happening, sorry. I'm just conscious of time, and I just want to really raise this point because I think it's important to talk about. We've talked about learning to strengthen young people's leadership capabilities. And one thing that has always struck me when I've been looking into this space is that actually young people do have a lot of skills that we're talking about here. So a lot of digital skills, young people in some contexts have inherently, they're digital natives, some people may refer. How can those skills, because as you say, Matey, we are in an increasingly a world where we're trying to be brought online, but people aren't comfortable. People may not have had access before where they now have access. Young people as leaders within, can we see young people as leaders and can't get my words out, sorry. But it's what I'm kind of, how can we use digital platforms or digital skills to actually enable young people to act as leaders in scenarios where actually they might be working with colleagues who don't have digital skills or haven't used digital space? Does having those skill sets actually really help them strengthen their leadership skills more? I think that makes sense.
I feel like that was addressed to me, so I'll just try to recap the question to make sure that I understood what I'm being asked. So what you're asking me to reflect on is whether, we are as, colleagues within civil society, whether we're able to meaningfully provide support for the, emergence and strengthening of leadership to young people who are digitally native. Is that the question? Is that kind of within the area?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that this is a very interesting question. So I was having a conversation today with a young activist, young humanitarian activist from Senegal, and he was telling me, do our current ways of reaching young people work? Right. So if we have community champions, is it the community champion that a young person goes to talk to when it comes to, their sexual health and reproductive rights, when it comes to their mental health challenges, when it comes to any of the kind of things that prevent this, emergence and really blooming of leadership? And his reply was no, right? You go to social media, you go to your friends online who are mostly based anywhere in the world, and you start building those support networks within whatever you can. But those activities are happening online. So I think trying to, in that way, force some of these digitally native young people to come offline is also a very difficult endeavor. And I can say that I think personally at ActionAid, we are succeeding, but we are succeeding because our practices are extremely participatory. Everything is based on reflection actions. So we're also asking people in offline sessions to take digital actions, right? So what is your digital campaign action plan? How are you going to influence whether UN clusters are taking place online and offline through using social media, right? And then they end up designing different things which are within their framework of operation, digitally native, even though we are sitting somewhere offline. So I think we can still reach them, but we should watch out not to kind of miss this train and be left at the station waiting while young people are out there setting up the stones for the future already today.
Brilliant. Thank you. So I'm conscious of time. I just kind of want to ask a final question, and I'd love to hear from all of you if we can. how do we ensure that young humanitarian leaders really truly utilize digital learning for inclusive, locally led humanitarian action? How do we do it?
So, I may like give like an answer here. Then we can also hear from the other colleagues. So, locally led actions as a debate, and how we can ensure that local organizations, local actors, local communities, they are playing a leadership role and they have an ownership on the responses that are implemented in their countries, either if it's like a humanitarian response or recovery, or like either at the development phase. So the way is to ensure that we are reaching youth and young people as much as we can, and that we are ensuring that there are different ways of reach out, different ways of access, and also ensuring a two-way communication with them. And last month we had influencers forum for the Arab region, including like Syria, Palestine, Sudan, etc., where more than 120 influencers who are like either like YouTubers or like on Instagram, who are followed by more than 250 million people. They participated and they had discussions around how they can be closer to the local communities, how they can better reflect the voice of people on the ground, how they can support there from an advocacy perspective through the untraditional advocacy pathways like the social media. So now many of the donors, many of the policymakers, they are like tuning their policies based on what they are getting from the social media, because we have millions of youth using those platforms. So that's the first point that that came to my mind. Over to you, Lucy.
Thank you. Anastasia, do you like to comment?
Yeah, I would like to continue here because I think it is really important for us as civil organizations and like thinking about of leaders in those spheres that we provide now for youths to motivate them and to support what they are started, because sometimes it is really important just to create even digital space for communication of the youths, for sharing ideas, for sharing their knowledge, and sometimes even offline space to create this space to share their personal experience, because youth has great experience in a lot of things. And I could give you one example from our school in Dobroslav. It is Odessa region near Black Sea. So it is quite a big school, but in rural, a little bit far away from the center of the region. And here our fellow came to school, and all the teachers were he's young, passionate, know all social media and platforms, and he was passionate to do something in community. And he knew that teachers actually do not use emails, they do not use Google Classroom, they do not provide any like digital interest in Kobo toolbox or something like that, quizzes, what we can use in learning. So he decided to establish it on the level of school, and it works. And the second step was like organizing a small, but small, it's not small, really influenced for 80 teachers forum, where he could share this experience. And teachers shared with the stars there, even when they are 50, 60 years old. Wow, that's cool to use Google, let's go. And use Telegram to chat with the students, not Viber, because Viber they do not use. So we just created the space where they could share experience with each other and with their their colleagues. Yeah, of course, I would really support the idea that it is needed to provide advocacy on all levels, on the governmental level, on the level of international organization, international community, but also on the level of local authorities to create this opportunity to young leaders to develop themselves using the digital platform, using the digital opportunity to develop their places where they live. And as maybe the last point, yes, for this, I think we have all to be flexible and gather feedback if youth and young leaders say that something doesn't work or it's inconvenient for them or they do not have information. We should find these opportunities for them and give it to them. Thank you so much. I give the floor further.
Okay, thank you. Katia.
Thank you for the question. And what I would like to share with you, it's about being a participant of young leaders community, because from March this year, I'm part of the SCUK project, which are connect people from Ukraine, Poland, Czechia, and Slovakia. And we are the 40 people group, which are the young leaders who are providing humanitarian help in different ways. But we have the same values and goals. And I am, as a participant, I started to provide to being a leader in those community, like a community keeper. And now, as a leader of those group, I can see that actually young people really need to be heard, and they need, and as an organization and people with experience, we need to give them responsible and trust, and to give them space to create new reality and create the solutions, because they have a lot of great ideas actually, but they need to know that people with experience would like to hear them, and they are really interested in what they want to say to the world. So that's what I can see in those projects, and I'm super happy to and glad that I can be the participant and still be the leader who can observe this atmosphere and this actually desire of all those people to engage, to change the world. And what I would like to share in the end, I believe that change starts with you, and I can see that in those community, because all of them had something to say to the world, and I can see that if someone wants to listen, changes are provided.
Thank you. Neba.
Thank you, Lucy. With regard to your last question, if young people are utilizing technology and digital platforms for inclusive learning, I think it's very important that we give young people the voice to, or the opportunity to be heard, as Katia just said, and to ensure that they connect with each other and share their ideas with each other. Because when young people come and they talk to each other,
really horrible feeling we've lost Neba just as he was making what sounded like a really excellent point about connection. I'm hoping his connection will be able to hold up. But whilst we hope to get Neba back, Matey, it would be lovely to hear your closing remarks.
Thank you. I have been on my toes to get a chance to speak, but I didn't want to occupy more space before the others could express themselves. I would like to touch upon this question of inclusion as well and how to use digital tools for inclusion. So I think something that we sometimes, don't want to acknowledge fully is that there's many young people who are not necessarily accessing trainings, further education because of the patriarchal society that we live in, especially considering young women and girls. So what I wanted to say was that, for example, at ActionAid now we have started to pilot something called digital communities, right, within our global platforms network, which is a global network of more than 70 youth-led safe spaces for activism and learning. And as part of these digital initiatives, what we are seeing is that basically we're getting young women joining, for example, the network for feminism, right? And being quiet, let's say, and then eventually after some weeks or something, then they start to engage with the content, they start to take participation. And then we also learn from them that before, let's say, they were not allowed to learn on this topic, because unfortunately, a lot of our society is still living under a patriarchy influenced by those so-called traditional norms, preventing young women from learning more about this very important topic of equality. And then in the same way, we are engaging on different topics, one of them being the young humanitarians community of practitioners. And then this society is basically where young people from Bangladesh who have just experienced the flood can share their, lessons learned and best practices with the young people in Central and Eastern Europe last week who were battling floods, right? So it also gives this ability for them to connect in real time and share valuable experience, which would not have been possible before. I don't really have specific final remarks, so I will just pass it on to the rest of the panel. Thank you, everybody.
Brilliant, thank you. Just very quickly, because I'm very conscious that we're over our allowed time, and I don't want to take too much of your time. Neba, did you just want to finish what you were saying there?
Yes, sorry, my connection is a bit unstable at this moment. So I was saying when, like Nikolov just mentioned, when youths are able to share their experiences and share their knowledge across digital platforms, it ensures more resilience, and then youths can be able to learn from the experiences of other youths who have faced similar problems. And I think we also need to continue to advocate for youth-led action and youth-led organizations to come to the forefront, because the idea is usually that youths are inexperienced or they don't have the resources to do as much work as they would have done. But because of sustainability, we should bring them in with their energy and their drive. And as, again, first responders, they can ensure that when initial action is taken, it can continue to solve future problems. And as I said, they are also very adaptable. So I think youths should be at the center of every humanitarian action, should be at the forefront, leading the action. Well, also from guidance from experienced persons, but then we all some of the actions. Thank you. I think I'll hand it over from here. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much. I am very conscious we've taken up a lot of everybody's time, so I just want to say a final thank you. And what I've really taken from this session is how young people are true leaders. They are very resilient, and digital learning is an enabler of that. It is not the only way to achieve that. And I think that with the theme that's come out so strongly for me is connection. And whether we use digital or whether in person, I feel as if that is a hugely powerful thing, and I think you've all spoken to that. So thank you, panelists, very much. Thank you, everyone that's been listening. I have been trying to keep an eye on the chat, but I've been so engrossed. There's so many more conversations that I think we'd all like to have. But unfortunately, we do have to end it there. So I really hope this has been interesting and useful. And thank you all very much for joining, and hopefully see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Lucy, and
Thank
everyone.
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Take
Goodbye.
care.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.